Hi, my name is Ilya Zrudlo, and I'm a PhD candidate in philosophy of education at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. This is a video abstract for my paper, Humankinds in Education, an Outline of a Two-Pronged Research Project, which was recently published in the Journal of Philosophy of Education. The purpose of my paper is to sketch an outline of a two-pronged approach to researching the use of what I call humankinds in education. The term humankinds, which, following David Backhurst, I borrow from Ian Hacking, is a way of referring to words and concepts that point to an image of a particular kind of human being. Educational programs inevitably mobilize these sorts of terms, for example, citizen or leader, and their associated concepts, for example, critical thinking or well-rounded. The use of such humankinds paints a picture of the kind of person educational institutions hope their students will become. The research program my paper outlines consists of a general approach to answering two interrelated questions that arise in this connection. First, how can we assess the existing humankinds currently circulating in educational institutions? And second, how can we go about discovering and elaborating the humankind or kinds that should be promoted in education? In order for either of these questions to be answerable at all, one needs to avoid the kind of radical social constructionism of which Backhurst is wary. Together with him, then, I affirm a kind of modest realism about humankinds, that humankinds have a rationale with respect to which their use is taken to be warranted or not, and on the basis of which they can be criticized as ill-founded or distorting. That's a quote from David Backhurst. Therefore, humankinds are a mixture of invention and discovery, which makes their assessment possible. Of course, any assessment of an existing humankind, the first prong of the research project, implies some positive conception of the kind of beings we ought to be, the second prong, no matter how vague. The two prongs are therefore closely interrelated. With regard to the first prong, my paper suggests three contexts in which humankinds can be assessed. 1, the cultural context, 2, the historical context, and 3, the conceptual context. For example, if we want to assess the humankind of the citizen, we could ask about the cross-cultural validity of the idea of citizenship, the history of the term, and the conceptual framework or frameworks in which this humankind is embedded. A significant conceptual context for nearly all humankinds is modernity itself, which has a significant influence on the humankinds employed by educational institutions today. The remainder of my essay examines Backhurst's proposed candidate for a universal humankind that would be serviceable for education, namely the rational agent, who has the lifelong task of developing our intellectual and moral capacities and powers. I summarize his account of it and defend it against two friendly critiques from other scholars. I then go on to elaborate some of its features, going somewhat beyond what Backhurst describes in his book. I suggest that his idea of a rational agent could be further historicized, especially vis-a-vis modernity. I also argue that Backhurst's rational agent is committed to the principles of justice and oneness, and therefore to social action towards these ends. In fact, an evolving vision of what society ought to look like is crucial for the elaboration of the kind of human being who can contribute to the realization of that vision. So that's a brief summary of my paper. For those of you who go on to read it, I hope you find it useful and interesting. I would welcome any opportunities to speak further about it. Thank you for your time.